For centuries, the galaxy had been quiet. The great alien civilizations, races older than Earth's oceans, wiser than human scholars, believed they had mapped every species worth knowing. They ruled through order, through alliances, through their own sense of superiority. Among them, humans were just a rumor, a story told by explorers who had once passed a small blue planet and dismissed it as primitive. That changed one silent morning near the edge of a forgotten star system. A deep space patrol from the Galactic Federation was making its routine scans when they picked up a faint, metallic signature. It was not on any registry. The readings were strange, too strong for an asteroid, too stable for space debris. At first, the alien commander assumed it was just a mining platform left adrift. But as the patrol ship drew closer, the image on their screens became clearer. A large vessel, sharp-edged and armored, floating motionless near the orbit of a dead moon. It had no known insignia, no response signal, and no sign of life. The commander ordered a scan. The results were confusing. The hull reflected their sensors back like a mirror. The readings came scrambled, and the ship's material composition didn't match anything known in the Federation's records. It was solid, layered, and impossibly dense. The aliens looked at the strange ship in silence. For beings who had explored 1,000 worlds, nothing usually surprised them. But this thing felt wrong. It didn't look sleek or artistic like their own ships. It looked built for war, pure function over beauty. Thick armor, hidden weapon ports, and a cold, angular frame that seemed designed to survive hell itself. They had no idea that what they were looking at was a human battleship. Back on Earth, humanity had come a long way. After a century of wars and peace treaties, nations had finally united under a single banner to explore beyond their own star. For the first time in human history, the old rivalries had ended, replaced by a shared dream of survival and exploration. The UNS Retribution was that dream turned into steel. Built on the lunar shipyards, it was humanity's first true deep space dreadnought, a ship designed not for aggression, but to ensure no one would ever again threaten Earth. Every part of the Retribution had a purpose. Its outer armor could take the impact of a meteor and keep moving. Its main reactor could power a small city for decades. Its weapons were hidden beneath layers of plating, invisible until needed. The crew had trained for years, handpicked from the best the planet had to offer. When it launched, the world watched from screens across continents. People cried, cheered, and held their breath as the great ship slowly rose above the moon's surface and disappeared into the black. Humanity had taken its first step into the unknown, but they had no idea someone was already watching. The Federation patrol ship circled the human vessel cautiously. From their perspective, this was a violation, a strange, unregistered craft inside their patrol zone. The commander decided to send a message. A transmission went out, carried across the stars in multiple languages. This is the Galactic Federation Patrol Unit Epsilon. Identify yourself. State your purpose. No reply. They tried again, this time in a universal frequency used by new civilizations. Still silence. Inside the Retribution, the crew saw the transmission come through. The ship's communication officer looked uncertain. The language was unfamiliar, but the tone was clear enough. It was a command. The captain, calm but alert, gave a short order. Do not respond. Maintain observation. Full defense mode. The humans didn't know who they were dealing with, and they didn't want to reveal too much. For all they knew, it could be pirates or a threat. The Retribution's sensors began quietly scanning the alien ship, while keeping its own systems in passive mode. The alien crew grew impatient. They weren't used to being ignored. In their history, every young civilization they encountered either bowed in fear or begged for protection. But this strange craft just floated there, silent and unreadable. The alien commander frowned. Increase scan strength, he ordered. The sensors flared and then went dark. The moment they tried to probe deeper, their entire scanning system crashed. Their ship's lights flickered. Alarms buzzed. Something had jammed them completely. What happened? The commander demanded. Unknown interference, said one of the crew members. It's coming from the target ship. On the human side, the Retribution's AI detected the scan attempt and automatically activated countermeasures. No one on board had to lift a finger. The alien attempt had been harmless, but protocol was clear. Never allow an unknown system to read your ship's core data. The captain quietly watched the alien vessel through the view screen. "They're scanning us," he said softly. "Probably testing us." The navigation officer nodded. "Should we warn them off?" He shook his head. "No, let's see what they do next." For a few long minutes, the two ships drifted in silence, facing each other in the endless blackness of space. One, a massive human fortress built for defense. The other, a sleek alien craft accustomed to superiority. Neither moved, neither spoke. Then the aliens made their decision. "We'll fire a warning shot," the commander said finally. "Low power, just to remind them who they're dealing with." A faint hum filled the alien ship as energy built inside their plasma cannon. A ball of blue light gathered, then shot across the void, passing just in front of the human vessel's bow. Inside the Retribution, alarms flared red. "They fired across our path," the tactical officer shouted. The captain's face stayed calm, but his voice dropped an octave. "Shields up. Prepare defense grid." The plasma burst grazed the Retribution's energy barrier, causing a brief ripple across its surface, but that was all. The ship didn't move an inch. Then the Retribution responded without a sound. Panels along its hull opened. Massive railguns rotated into position, followed by plasma turrets and missile pods. The whole ship came alive, glowing faintly under its own power. To the aliens, it was like watching a sleeping beast wake up. "Power surge," shouted one of the alien technicians. "Their weapons are activating." The commander's voice trembled for the first time. "Impossible. They're reacting too fast." The Retribution's targeting system locked on automatically. The alien ship had fired first. It was now considered hostile. The captain gave one last order. "Fire, short burst. Disable, not destroy." The main railguns thundered. In the vacuum of space there was no sound, but the effect was immediate. Slugs of super-dense metal shot across the void faster than any missile could travel. They tore through the alien ship's shields like paper. The first hit punched a hole straight through the engine bay. The second shattered the control deck. Within seconds, the alien vessel was gone. Silent, broken, and drifting. The humans didn't celebrate. No one cheered. The captain simply ordered a damage scan and told the crew to stand down. On the screens, the shattered alien craft floated away, its lights fading one by one. The crew watched quietly, realizing they might have just made first contact with tragic consequences. Far across the galaxy, the Federation soon received the distress signal, fragmented, filled with static and fear. Their patrol was gone, destroyed by an unknown ship of impossible power. When the data was analyzed, the scientists and military leaders argued for days. The readings made no sense. The weapon energy was ancient and new at the same time, using technologies they thought no primitive world could create. They replayed the short video again and again, the moment the human ship turned. The railguns fired, and the Federation vessel vanished in a burst of light. It was not just destruction. It was a message, a single encounter, but it changed everything. For the first time in centuries, the great alien races realized they were not alone at the top. Somewhere out there, on a blue planet they once ignored, a new force had risen. Strong, silent, and unafraid. The Federation named the event the Silent Battle. They never forgot it, and though they tried to hide it from the public, the story spread in whispers across the stars. Pilots told each other around campfires on faraway worlds. Traders spoke of a ship built from a dead world that could destroy anything that threatened it. No one knew its true name. But among those who had seen the recordings, one phrase kept returning again and again, spoken in awe, sometimes in fear. It was the first time we saw a human battleship, and we paid for it. The shock of that first encounter spread quietly through the Federation. At first, they didn't even want to believe it. A single ship destroyed one of their patrol vessels in seconds, and then vanished without a trace. There was no explanation that made sense. Every scientist, strategist, and diplomat tried to understand how it happened, but every time they reviewed the sensor footage, the same impossible truth remained. The unknown ship's hull didn't just resist their scans, it blocked them entirely. Its armor didn't reflect energy, it absorbed it. And its weapons? They fired with mechanical precision. No visible charging, no energy buildup. Just raw kinetic power that tore through shields like they were made of air. To the Federation, it was terrifying. The official reports described the unknown vessel as a planetary defense relic, or an automated fortress. They refused to accept it was crewed by an intelligent species. After all, no one had seen a human before. But deep within the Federation Council chambers, a few older species remembered stories, ancient records from when their explorers first mapped the Sol system. Back then, Earth had been labeled a developing world, home to a violent, unpredictable species. They were strong, clever, and emotional. And then they went silent. For centuries, there had been no signals, no contact. Everyone assumed the humans had destroyed themselves. Now it seemed they hadn't. Meanwhile, back in the outer regions near the moon, the crew of the UNS Retribution moved on silently. They didn't celebrate their victory, nor did they broadcast it. The captain knew one mistake could bring unknown dangers down on their world. Inside the command deck, the atmosphere was tense but steady. The crew had returned to their regular duties: repair checks, fuel management, communication logs. Still, no one could completely shake the memory of that alien ship disintegrating before their eyes. It wasn't pride they felt, it was unease. "We don't know who they were," one officer said quietly. "We don't know if there are more." The captain looked out the viewport at the endless dark of space. "There are always more," he said softly. "We just don't know where yet." Those words stayed with them because, far from Earth, the galaxy was already preparing a response. Within a month, dozens of Federation ships gathered in the Council's central system. Representatives from 9 major species met under the vast dome of the assembly hall. Their faces and forms were different, some scaled, some feathered, some crystalline, but their worry was the same. The discussion lasted for days. Some wanted to ignore the event, to pretend it was an accident. Others demanded revenge. A few scientists argued it was worth studying the new species before deciding anything, but one truth united them all: fear. The Federation had ruled the stars unchallenged for thousands of years. Their fleets were powerful, their technology unmatched. Yet one unknown vessel had undone all that confidence in a matter of seconds. They couldn't allow such a thing to go unanswered. So they decided to send a new expedition, not for war, but for observation. A fleet of exploration cruisers escorted by warships would trace the path of the vanished human dreadnought and locate its homeworld. It was to be a mission of peace, they said. But everyone in that hall knew the truth. It was about control. On Earth, the Retribution's crew finally returned to the lunar shipyard for maintenance. Engineers swarmed over the hull, scanning for stress fractures, checking weapon systems, and running diagnostics on the AI. The captain filed his report in secret. It described everything: the alien contact, the warning shot, the counterattack, and the wreckage left behind. The report was transmitted through encrypted channels to the Earth Command Council, a group that governed humanity's new interstellar operations. For weeks, no response came. Then one evening, as the crew prepared to rest, a message arrived. It was short. "Do not engage further. Maintain silence. Prepare for observation missions." The meaning was clear. Earth's leaders didn't want escalation. They didn't want a war with unknown civilizations, but the captain also knew something else, whoever those aliens were. They would not forget what happened. And they were right. A few weeks later, the Federation expedition entered the same star system where the first encounter took place. 20 ships moved in formation, their engines glowing faintly in the dark. At the center of the fleet was a massive command vessel, carrying the Federation's top scientists and diplomats. They had come to study the wreckage of their fallen patrol ship and, if possible, find clues about the mysterious attacker. The debris still floated quietly, frozen in space. Twisted metal, fragments of hull, and shattered control panels drifted like ghosts. When the scientists began their analysis, they were stunned. The damage wasn't caused by plasma, lasers, or antimatter weapons. It was simple kinetic force, metal projectiles moving at incredible speed. "Primitive," one of them muttered, "but effective." It was the first time in thousands of years that anyone in the Federation had seen such technology used. To them it was ancient, outdated, but somehow, it had worked better than anything they'd ever built. That scared them even more. If a civilization could create such destructive power with simple tools, what else were they capable of? Back on Earth, humans continued their quiet expansion. Mining stations were being built on Mars. Supply routes were being set up beyond Jupiter. But the Retribution's crew couldn't shake the feeling that they had awakened something far larger than they understood. During night shifts, when most of the crew was asleep, some officers talked softly about what might be out there. "What if they come for us?" one asked. "Then we'll be ready," another replied. "We always are." Humanity had learned long ago that survival meant preparation. Every scar in their history, every war, every mistake had taught them that strength wasn't about aggression. It was about never letting fear take control, and if the galaxy came knocking, they would be ready to answer. Months passed. The Federation's search fleet moved slowly but surely toward the Sol system. They thought they were being careful, hiding their approach under deep space stealth. But they didn't realize that humans were already watching them. The Retribution had been upgraded with a long-range detection system. Deep sensors picked up faint energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Multiple ships, matching the same type as the one they had destroyed before. Inside the command deck, the captain stood silently, arms crossed, staring at the data feed. "They're coming," said one of the officers. He nodded slowly. "Yes, and they'll want answers." "What should we do?" "Exactly what we always do," the captain replied. "Stay calm. Stay hidden. Let them make the first move." The humans began to prepare quietly. Defense satellites were reactivated. Communication codes were changed. The Earth Command ordered all civilian ships to remain within the inner planets. Still, they didn't send threats or warnings. They wanted peace, if peace was possible. But the universe rarely allows peace without testing it first. When the Federation fleet finally reached the outer rim of the solar system, they stopped near Neptune. From there, they could observe the strange blue world from a distance. Through powerful telescopes, they saw the glimmer of orbital stations, small mining outposts, and transport ships. To their surprise, the humans were clearly advanced, but not impossibly so. "What kind of species builds warships before proper colonies?" one diplomat whispered. "A species that's been through fire," answered a scientist. The commander of the fleet sent a message toward Earth in every known frequency. It was a peaceful greeting, offering communication and cooperation. For days, no answer came. Then, on the 5th day, something appeared on their sensors. A single contact moving fast. Very fast. It was the Retribution. The massive human dreadnought emerged from behind Neptune's shadow, its engines burning softly. It didn't attack, didn't threaten, didn't even aim its weapons. It simply positioned itself between the alien fleet and Earth, like a silent guardian. The Federation ships held their breath. Their scanners couldn't penetrate the ship's defenses just like before. They couldn't even tell if there was anyone on board. Then, without warning, a transmission came through. A single message, clear and calm, in the Federation's own language. "You have entered human territory. We mean no harm, but approach no further." The voice was steady, without anger, without fear. The alien commander hesitated. He looked at the image of the massive human ship, floating quietly, blocking their path. It was just one vessel against 20. Yet somehow every instinct told him not to move closer. The fleet stayed still for hours. No one fired. No one advanced. Then, slowly, the Federation ships began to turn away. They had come looking for answers. And they had found them. That moment became known across the galaxy as the standoff at Neptune. No battle was fought. No one died. But something deeper changed that day. The Federation finally understood what kind of species humanity was. Not reckless, not submissive, but watchful and ready. They didn't seek domination. They only wanted respect and peace on their own terms. From that day on, every alien map in the galaxy marked a new boundary, one that read simply, "Human space. Do not enter without permission." And beyond that border, under the quiet glow of a blue world, the Retribution returned home. It had no need to prove its strength. It had already done that the first time aliens laid eyes on it. After the standoff near Neptune, silence returned to the stars. The alien fleet had retreated and the humans had not pursued. For the outside world, life went on as usual. Cities glowed, people worked. Children laughed under the same blue sky. But those who knew the truth understood that something had changed forever. Earth was no longer hidden. The galaxy had seen it now, and though no war had been declared, both sides were quietly preparing for what might come next. Inside the orbital base above Earth, meetings stretched late into the night. The heads of the new Terran alliance discussed how to respond. Some argued that they should reach out to these alien civilizations before fear turned into hostility. Others believed that silence was their best weapon. "The galaxy knows our strength now," said one of the generals. "We don't need to speak. We just need to be ready." But a few diplomats disagreed. "Fear alone doesn't bring peace," and one of them said. "We need understanding, not distance." The debate continued for weeks with no clear answer. Humanity had reached a crossroad it had never faced before. For centuries they had been divided among themselves by borders, beliefs, and ambitions. But now, for the first time, the entire planet shared the same question. How do you live in a galaxy that finally knows you exist? On the moon, the UNS Retribution rested quietly in its dry dock. The scars from the previous encounters had been repaired, and engineers worked day and night improving the ship's systems. New armor plating was added. The navigation system was upgraded, and deep inside the engineering decks, a group of scientists was testing something new, an experimental energy core that could extend the ship's travel range beyond anything humanity had achieved before. To the crew, the Retribution was more than just a ship, it was home. They had spent years together through isolation, danger, and silence. Each crew member knew every sound, every hum, every vibration of that steel giant. During the quiet hours, some of them would gather in the observation deck, looking out at the curve of the Earth below. The captain often stood there too, watching in silence. He knew the galaxy wasn't done with them yet. "Do you ever think they'll come back?" one officer asked him once. He didn't answer immediately. His eyes stayed fixed on the stars. "If they do," he said finally, "I hope they come with words this time, not weapons." Meanwhile, far from Earth, the Federation's council faced its own growing storm. The incident at Neptune had left deep cracks in their confidence. Half the members wanted to open diplomatic talks with the humans. The other half wanted to isolate them. But one truth united them all: fear. The recordings of the Retribution had been shared among the highest military ranks. Every commander who saw it noticed the same thing: the calm way the human ship had acted. No panic, no confusion. Just cold precision and silence. It was not the behavior of a species that stumbled into conflict. It was the behavior of one that had already survived worse. Federation scientists tried to analyze human behavior using ancient records. They found traces of Earth's history, wars, disasters, recoveries, and rebuilding. To them, it was almost unthinkable that a species could survive so much and still reach the stars. One scientist, during a quiet moment, said softly, "They are not conquerors. They are survivors. That's what makes them dangerous." Months turned into years. For a while, both sides kept their distance. Federation ships avoided human space, and humans avoided venturing too far beyond their own borders. Trade routes continued elsewhere, and the galaxy slowly returned to its routine. But curiosity has a way of breaking silence. One day, a small Federation science vessel detected strange readings coming from near the asteroid belt. It wasn't human, it couldn't be, but the energy signatures were similar to human technology. They decided to investigate, thinking it might be wreckage or an old beacon left behind. When they arrived, what they found left them speechless. It was a small human outpost, barely more than a research station, powered by solar arrays and quiet generators. It wasn't hidden, but it wasn't transmitting either. A few human engineers were working on the surface, collecting minerals and studying gravitational data. The alien crew hovered nearby, observing from a distance. Their orders were clear: no contact, no interference. But seeing humans in person, working peacefully in the cold of space, changed something in them. They expected hostility. They saw humanity. One of the alien scientists recorded the scene carefully. "They build small," she whispered, "but they build with care." Before leaving, she transmitted a short message into open space, a peaceful greeting. No response came, but the humans turned their helmets toward the sky as if they had heard. It was the first unspoken truce. On Earth, the discovery didn't go unnoticed. The Federation's signal had been detected, translated, and analyzed. It wasn't a threat. It was simple, almost polite. The Terran Council met again to discuss it. Some feared it was a trick, a test. Others saw it as an opportunity. This time, the captain of the Retribution was called in. The council wanted his opinion. He listened to their debate quietly before finally speaking. "Fear goes both ways," he said. "They're afraid of us, but they're also curious. Maybe it's time we show them who we really are, not what they think we are." The council hesitated. Humanity had always been cautious with outsiders, but slowly they agreed to send a message back, a single, neutral reply. It was short, just 4 words. "We acknowledge your presence," and with that, the first step toward communication began. The Federation received the message weeks later. It was analyzed, verified, and debated endlessly. For some, it was proof that humans could be reasoned with. For others, it was a warning disguised as politeness. Still, the Council decided to proceed carefully. They sent another message offering mutual observation and non-aggression terms. They even proposed a meeting at a neutral star system, a peaceful exchange of knowledge. On Earth, the proposal sparked mixed feelings. Many were excited at the idea of meeting another intelligent species, but others, especially the military, remained wary. Humanity's history had taught them that peace was never guaranteed. After long discussion, the Council approved the meeting, but with one condition: the Retribution would attend, not as a threat, but as protection. When the news reached the crew, they knew what it meant. They weren't just going into space again, they were going to represent all of humanity. The day the Retribution departed, millions watched from Earth and the Moon. The great ship rose slowly, its engines glowing faintly against the darkness. It carried no flags, no signs of power, just quiet determination. Inside, the crew prepared in silence. No one spoke much. Everyone understood the importance of what lay ahead. As they approached the meeting point, a lonely system with 2 suns and no habitable worlds, the alien fleet was already waiting. Not warships this time, but research vessels, diplomats, and observers. For hours, both sides exchanged harmless data signals, temperature readings, environmental safety checks, communication frequencies. Then finally, they opened a direct channel. The first words spoken between humanity and the wider galaxy were simple. "This is the Galactic Federation delegation. We greet the people of Earth." There was a pause, then a calm human voice replied, "This is the United Terran Fleet. We greet you as equals." Those words carried across space, echoing through both fleets. What followed wasn't dramatic. There were no explosions, no betrayals, just conversation. Careful, slow, and sometimes awkward conversation. But it was real. They talked about science, exploration, and culture. They exchanged maps, though both kept their borders private. They even shared data about planets rich in life, though neither side dared to visit them together yet. Trust didn't come overnight. It took patience, but for the first time, there was hope. The meeting ended with a small gesture. The Federation ships blinked their lights in a rhythmic pattern, a sign of respect in their culture. The Retribution replied by lowering its energy output and dimming its hull lights, a quiet human salute. No one fired a weapon that day. No one shouted. No one tried to dominate. For once, 2 very different species stood in the same silence and understood each other. When the Retribution returned home weeks later, the world waited. The captain's report was short but meaningful. "No threats," he wrote. "No lies, just life beyond our sky." Earth celebrated quietly. The first chapter of fear was closing, and something new was beginning. The stars no longer felt distant, they felt reachable. But deep down, everyone knew the story wasn't over. There were still countless unknowns in the galaxy. Civilizations that hadn't yet seen humanity. Powers that might not be as calm as the Federation. Still, for now, peace held. And the Retribution, the ship that once terrified the stars, had become a symbol of balance, not destruction. In its silent voyage, it had taught both sides the same lesson. True strength isn't shown in battle. It's shown in restraint. And though no one knew what the next dawn among the stars would bring, humanity had already made its mark. For the first time in its long, turbulent history, Earth wasn't looking up at the stars in fear. It was looking forward in hope. The peace between humans and the Galactic Federation had begun like the first sunrise after a long storm. slow, cautious, but full of promise. Months turned into years, and both sides continued to talk through signals and small diplomatic visits. No battles were fought, no threats were made. For the first time in human history, the stars didn't feel hostile, but peace, no matter how fragile, is never without tests. The UNS Retribution had become more than just a ship. It was now a symbol of strength and balance. To the galaxy, it was a reminder of the first encounter, the moment humanity proved that it was not to be underestimated. To Earth, it represented something deeper: unity. Every nation, every culture had built it together. It carried the dreams of an entire world. After its successful diplomatic mission, the Retribution continued to patrol quietly beyond Neptune, guarding the outer edges of the solar system. The crew had changed slightly. New officers had joined, new scientists rotated in, but the spirit remained the same. They were protectors, not conquerors. Life aboard the ship had a calm rhythm now. Mornings began with soft sunlight from Earth reaching the windows. The hum of the engines was steady and familiar. Crew members exercised, monitored communication channels, and recorded data from deep space probes. Even in the silence of space, there was a feeling of peace. Still, beneath that calm, there was an awareness, like the quiet before a thunderstorm. Far away, the Federation was facing its own struggle. Not everyone was pleased with the new friendship. Some of the older and more arrogant species saw humans as a threat to the balance they had maintained for centuries. They are too new, one council member argued. Too unpredictable. They don't belong among us, others disagreed. They defended themselves when attacked. They have not invaded or demanded anything. Perhaps they deserve trust. The debate grew more heated each year. A small group of Federation powers began to secretly form their own plans. They believed that humanity's rise would inspire rebellion among younger civilizations. To them, the humans were a symbol of defiance, a spark that could ignite chaos. So they began sending small scout ships into human-claimed space, pretending it was for research. The Federation government didn't approve these missions, but they didn't stop them either. Sometimes, politics turns a blind eye to curiosity mixed with fear. It didn't take long before one of those ships made a mistake. A Federation vessel entered the orbit of a gas giant on the edge of the human frontier. Its crew was curious about an old satellite signal that had gone dark. They thought it was abandoned. But it wasn't. It was a human deep space probe, part of Earth's defense network. The moment the alien ship tried to scan it, a warning was triggered. Within minutes, the Retribution received the alert. Inside the command deck, alarms began to echo softly. The captain looked up from his console, calm but focused. Unknown signature detected, the officer reported. Federation design, unregistered path. The captain didn't panic. He simply nodded. Set course. Non-aggressive approach. The giant dreadnought turned slowly, its engines glowing as it left its patrol route. When the alien ship realized it had been detected, it tried to retreat, but the Retribution was faster. Within minutes, the two ships were face to face, floating in the stillness of space. No weapons were drawn. No words were spoken. The humans waited for the aliens to explain themselves. The Federation crew, nervous and overwhelmed by the sight of the enormous human warship, hesitated. Finally, a message came through. This is a Federation research vessel. We apologize for the intrusion. We meant no harm, the captain of the Retribution replied calmly. Acknowledged. Please leave our space. There is no conflict. But this area is restricted. The exchange was short, professional, and peaceful. The Federation ship turned around and left. But even such a small event didn't go unnoticed. When news of the encounter reached the Federation Council, reactions were mixed. Some saw it as proof that humans were disciplined and reasonable. Others twisted it into fear. They're expanding their borders, one council member claimed. Next time they won't just warn, they'll attack. Paranoia grew again. Within months, rumors spread through the outer colonies of the Federation. Traders whispered about human ships that could appear out of nowhere. Some said they could jam entire fleets. Others claimed they had technology that could control gravity. None of it was true, but fear never needed truth to spread. The Federation leadership tried to calm the rumors, but distrust was already seeded. A few ambitious military officers began planning without permission. They wanted to test the humans again, to measure their power and reaction. They didn't plan to start a war. But wars often begin where arrogance meets fear. Back on Earth, things were changing too. Humanity was growing bolder. New colonies had begun on Mars and one of Jupiter's moons. Mining operations extended deep into the asteroid belt. For the first time, humanity wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. But with expansion came responsibility. The Council knew that one wrong decision could undo everything. So when they heard about the latest border incident, they took no chances. They sent out clear orders. All Terran ships were to remain calm, never provoke, never fire first, no matter the situation. Peace through strength, the Council's message read. But peace first. The Retribution's captain took those words to heart. He made sure his crew understood that their purpose wasn't to fight, but to protect. And deep down, he hoped that the galaxy would understand that too. Weeks later, the Federation's secret task force carried out its plan. A small fleet of advanced stealth ships slipped quietly into the human frontier. Their mission was simple: observe human technology, record data, and leave undetected. At first, everything went smoothly. They moved silently through asteroid shadows, staying just outside radar range. Then one of their ships made a mistake. A navigation error sent it too close to an automated defense satellite. The system activated instantly, sending a silent pulse to the Retribution. Once again, the humans detected the intrusion. This time, though, the situation was different. It wasn't a single vessel. It was several. The command deck of the Retribution came alive. Multiple signals detected, reported the sensor officer. Unregistered ships matching Federation patterns. No transponders active. The captain remained calm. Open a broadcast channel. His voice echoed across the dark. Unidentified vessels, this is the Terran Fleet patrol ship Retribution. You are entering restricted space. Identify immediately. There was no response. The aliens had hoped to remain invisible. But invisibility was impossible now. The Federation fleet debated what to do. If they responded, they would admit guilt. If they stayed silent, the humans might consider them hostile. In their hesitation, time slipped away. The Retribution, following strict protocol, didn't fire. Instead, it began emitting a low-frequency pulse that disabled cloaking systems in nearby space. One by one, the Federation ships flickered into view, shimmering shapes caught in the pulse's light. For a brief moment, all of them froze. The human ship stood alone against 6 smaller vessels. Yet no one moved. Then the captain sent a final transmission. You are now visible. Leave peacefully. There will be no second warning, that was all. No threats, no anger. Just calm certainty. The Federation ships, realizing the danger of escalation, retreated immediately. The incident ended without a shot. But the message was loud and clear. When the Federation Council received the report, they could no longer deny the truth. Humanity wasn't aggressive, but it was unshakable. It had drawn a line in the stars and defended it without violence. This changed everything. For centuries, power in the galaxy had belonged to those who ruled through dominance. But the humans had shown a different kind of power, the power of restraint. Even the Federation's oldest members couldn't ignore it. Slowly, they began to understand that fear was no longer useful. Cooperation was. A new proposal was drafted, a permanent peace agreement between Earth and the Federation, built on shared exploration and mutual defense. It was called the Accord of Two Worlds. When the Retribution carried the treaty home, the crew could hardly believe it. They had been there from the first shot to the first handshake. Now they were carrying a message of hope. The signing of the accord was quiet and simple. No fireworks, no celebration, just representatives from both sides standing together on a neutral space station orbiting a calm star. A single pen was passed between hands, human and alien alike. When it was done, the captain of the Retribution looked out the station window at the stars that had once been filled with fear. We didn't just survive the galaxy, he said softly. We joined it, and somewhere far away, among the countless worlds of the Federation, stories began to spread, stories not of a terrifying human warship, but of a people who had turned power into peace. The Retribution returned home to a world that finally understood its place in the universe. Not above anyone. Not below anyone, but among them. For the first time, the stars felt like neighbors, not threats. And though the future remained uncertain, one thing was clear. The day aliens first laid eyes on a human battleship had changed the galaxy forever. Not because of what the ship destroyed, but because of what humanity built afterward. The accord between Earth and the Galactic Federation had been signed for only a few months, yet its effect was already spreading across the stars. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt a little quieter. The old rivalries had begun to slow down. The endless tension between great powers had eased, replaced by a cautious hope that maybe, just maybe, peace was possible after all. But peace is a living thing. It must be cared for. It can grow or it can fade, and as the galaxy soon learned, peace with humans was not something you could simply assume. It had to be earned and respected every single day. The UNS Retribution was now more than a ship. It had become a legend. Every starport, every outpost that had once whispered about the Death World ship now spoke its name with a strange kind of respect. Children on distant alien worlds built small models of it from scrap metal. Merchants told stories of the humans who turned battle into understanding. But inside the ship itself, life carried on much like before. The crew went through their daily routines, checking systems, running diagnostics, communicating with other vessels across the fleet. They were proud of what they had achieved, but they also understood something deeper. Peace never stays still. One quiet morning, as the ship drifted near the edge of a distant nebula, the captain stood before the viewing glass. The stars shimmered like dust scattered over a black sea. He had seen this view 100 times before, but now it felt different. There was a weight to it, a quiet reminder of how far humanity had come. "Strange," one of the younger officers said, walking up beside him. "A few years ago, none of us even knew what was out here. Now everyone in the galaxy knows who we are," the captain smiled faintly, "and that's why we must be careful. The moment we stop earning that respect, we'll lose it." Back on Earth, the new relationship with the Federation was changing everything. Trade ships began traveling between planets, carrying not just goods but ideas, art, and knowledge. Humans learned how to grow food in alien soil and how to harness energy from stars more efficiently. In return, they taught others how to adapt, how to survive even in the harshest conditions, a lesson humanity had learned long ago. But not everyone in the galaxy welcomed these changes. Some powerful races who had once ruled through fear began to feel threatened. They watched humanity rise from a single blue planet to a respected member of the Federation, and they didn't like it. In hidden council chambers across distant worlds, they whispered, "The humans are spreading too fast. They build too quickly. They think too freely. If we don't control them now, we never will," and so, old rivalries began to stir again quietly. In the shadows of diplomacy, one day, as the Retribution cruised through a neutral sector of space, it picked up a distress signal. The message was faint, broken by static, but it was clear enough to catch attention. It came from a Federation cargo vessel, a ship carrying refugees from a war-torn system. Without hesitation, the Retribution set a course. It was what humanity did best: help when others were in danger. When they arrived, the scene was grim. The cargo ship was drifting, its engines dead, surrounded by debris. Life signs were weak. The human crew worked fast, launching rescue pods and sending medical drones aboard the damaged vessel. But something about the scene didn't feel right. The ship's hull showed no signs of battle, no scorch marks or missile impacts, just clean, precise damage as if it had been cut open. Then, before anyone could react, sensors detected movement. Several ships uncloaked in the distance, their shapes sharp and angular, clearly not Federation design. These were not rescue ships. They were raiders, and they had been waiting. "Unknown vessels approaching fast," shouted the officer at the console. The captain's calm voice echoed across the deck. "Defensive formation, shield up. No fire unless fired upon." The raiders didn't wait. Within seconds, bolts of energy lit up the dark. The Retribution's shields flared bright blue as the first shots hit. The captain didn't flinch. He'd seen this before: the chaos, the noise, the panic. But he also knew the rule: stay calm, stay controlled. He gave the order: lock targets, fire warning shots only. The Retribution's massive railguns rotated with a deep mechanical hum. A moment later, they fired 3 silent flashes of light. The tungsten shells passed dangerously close to the raiders, not hitting them but close enough to shake their ships with shock waves. It was a warning. A line drawn in the stars. The raiders hesitated. They hadn't expected resistance. They thought the human ship would attack blindly, giving them proof that humans were still violent. But instead, the retribution stood like a wall, strong but controlled. Realizing they had been exposed, the raiders broke formation and jumped into hyperspace. When the quiet returned, the captain ordered the crew to continue the rescue mission. The refugees were saved, treated, and brought safely to a nearby station. Not a single human weapon had hit another ship that day, but the message had spread again. Humanity was strong, but more importantly, humanity was fair. The story of that rescue traveled faster than light itself. The Federation broadcasted it across all major worlds. People, human and alien alike, saw the footage of the retribution shielding innocent lives, not destroying. It changed minds. Even those who once feared humanity began to see them differently. They were not the destroyers of worlds. They were the guardians of peace. But the success also brought new enemies. The hidden powers who had sent those raiders were angry. Their plan to paint humans as aggressors had failed. So they turned to another idea, one more dangerous and more subtle. They would not attack humanity directly. Instead, they would turn others against them. Over the next few months, strange incidents began happening across Federation space. Cargo convoys disappeared. Communication lines went down. Entire stations lost power without warning. And somehow, in every case, evidence appeared pointing toward human involvement. Data fragments, energy signatures, even false transmissions using human codes. It was a trap, an elaborate effort to frame Earth. At first, the Federation leaders were skeptical. They had learned to trust humanity. But as the number of incidents grew, pressure began to mount. Protests broke out on alien worlds demanding an investigation. Old fears returned. The captain of the Retribution knew what was happening. He could see the pattern, the same tactics humanity had once seen on its own world. Misinformation, lies, and manipulation. So he decided to act. The crew began gathering data quietly. They traced the false signals, analyzed the patterns, and compared every detail. It took weeks of sleepless nights, but finally they found the truth. The fake transmissions all led back to a single hidden source, a relay station deep in uncharted space beyond Federation control. The captain requested permission to investigate, but the council hesitated. The situation was too tense. One wrong move could trigger war again. So the captain made a decision that history would remember. He went anyway. The Retribution jumped into hyperspace, heading straight for the hidden relay station. It was a dangerous mission, one that could end everything they had built. But for the crew, the choice was simple. If someone was trying to destroy peace, they had to stop it, no matter the risk. When they arrived, they found the truth waiting for them. The station wasn't abandoned. It was operated by a secret alliance of alien militaries, those same powers who had feared human strength. They were behind everything, the raids, the sabotage, the lies. They had been trying to turn the galaxy against Earth. When the Retribution confronted them, a tense silence filled the air. No one moved. No one spoke. Then the captain transmitted a single message to the Federation. "We have found your real enemy." The evidence they sent, images, recordings, data logs, was undeniable. It exposed the entire conspiracy. When the truth reached the Federation Council, it shook the galaxy. The guilty powers were stripped of their authority. The peace treaty was reaffirmed, stronger than before. And the Retribution once again became the symbol of truth and courage. Back home, the people of Earth watched the broadcasts with pride. They saw their ship not as a weapon, but as a shield, a light in the darkness of the unknown. And across the galaxy, species that had once feared humans now sent them messages of thanks. Some called them protectors, others called them allies. But to those who had lived through war and chaos, the humans were something even more important: hope. The Retribution returned to Earth orbit months later, its hull scarred but shining under sunlight. As it approached home, thousands of lights blinked from the surface below, cities, ships, people looking up. They had no idea what the future would bring. But they knew one thing, whatever came next, Humanity would face it together with strength, with calm, and with the same quiet courage that had changed the galaxy once before. The first time aliens had laid eyes on a human battleship, they had feared it. Now when they saw it pass through their skies, they didn't fear it anymore. They saluted. The battle between the humans and the alien Zarkon ship had changed everything. It was no longer just about ships and weapons or territory in space. It was about how two very different worlds now had to find a way to live with each other, even after such a fierce fight. The humans had won, but the war had only just begun. Not with guns, but with words and trust. Back on Earth, people celebrated. The news was everywhere. For the first time in history, humans had not only met an alien race, but had also shown they could stand their ground. The battleship that had faced the Zarkon Empire's scout ship was called a symbol of strength, courage, and hope. Yet beneath the cheers and pride, many knew that this encounter was only the start of a much bigger story. The leaders of Earth understood that they could not just ignore the aliens or act like enemies forever. The universe was too big, and it was impossible to stay isolated now. The humans had to think about the future. They had to decide how to talk to the Zarkon Empire, how to build something better from this moment, even if it was fragile and new. Meanwhile, on the other side of space, the Zarkon Empire was quiet but busy. Their scientists and commanders were still shocked. They had thought of humans as weak, simple creatures, nothing like the fierce, smart beings they had just faced. The damage to their ship was a reminder that they had underestimated humanity. This was a mistake they could not make again. Some in the Zarkon leadership wanted revenge. They wanted to send a bigger force, to teach humans a lesson. But others thought differently. They believed that fighting humans was dangerous and would only lead to more war. They wondered if it was better to learn about humans first, to understand what made them strong and how they might live together in peace. Slowly, a plan began to form. The Zarkon Empire sent a small team to prepare for a message, something new, a sign that they wanted to talk, not fight. It was a risk. They didn't know if humans would accept the offer or see it as a trick. But for both sides, the old ways of fear and fighting were not working anymore. On Earth, the message from the Zarkon Empire arrived through space channels. The humans gathered to hear it, nervous and hopeful. The message was simple but powerful. We want to meet. We want to learn. We want peace. It was a chance to start over, to write a new chapter. The people who worked on the battleship, those who had faced the alien ship, were asked to be part of the first meeting. They were ready to be ambassadors, to show that humans could be friendly and open, even after the battle. They thought about the past fight but focused on what could come next. When the day of the meeting arrived, the two ships came close in a neutral area far from Earth and the Zarkon homeworld. The humans felt a mix of excitement and fear. What if the aliens were still hostile? What if something went wrong? But there was also hope that this meeting would change history. The Zarkon representatives appeared, and the humans saw their faces for the first time. They were very different, with strange shapes and colors, but their eyes showed curiosity, not hatred. The first words spoken were cautious, polite, filled with questions and explanations. Both sides spoke slowly, trying to understand each other. At first, the conversation was difficult. The aliens talked about their empire, their history, and their technology. The humans shared stories about Earth, about how they had reached out into space and built ships like the Vanguard. They talked about their hopes for peace, for learning, for working together. As time passed, trust grew bit by bit. They realized they had more in common than they thought. Both sides wanted safety for their people. Both wanted to explore space without fear of war. Both wanted friends, not enemies. The meeting ended with a promise. They would keep talking. They would exchange knowledge and ideas. They would find ways to avoid war and help each other grow stronger in this vast universe. Back on Earth, people felt a new sense of purpose. The first fight with the aliens was remembered not just as a battle, but as a turning point. It was proof that even after conflict, peace was possible if both sides were willing to try. Scientists began working on new projects to communicate better, to understand alien languages and technology. Educators taught children about the Zarkon Empire, preparing a new generation to live in a universe shared with other beings. Artists created paintings and stories inspired by the encounter. Musicians wrote songs about the stars and the hope of friendship beyond worlds. The whole planet seemed connected by this shared experience. On the Zarkon homeworld, people also changed. They told stories about the humans who had fought bravely and then chosen peace. They learned from the encounter and realized that strength was not just about weapons but about wisdom and understanding. Both civilizations started sending scientists, diplomats, and explorers back and forth. They traded goods, shared knowledge about medicine and technology, and learned about each other's cultures. What began as fear turned into fascination and respect. But the road was not always smooth. There were still moments of mistrust and misunderstandings. Some people on both sides did not want peace and hoped for conflict. Yet, the leaders and most people worked hard to keep the dialogue alive. The humans knew they had to be patient and careful. They understood that building peace was like building a ship in the vast ocean of space, slow, steady, and needing many hands working together. This new era was full of challenges but also full of hope. The first time aliens laid eyes on a human, Battleship, and paid for it was now a story about much more than a battle. It was about what came after, the chance to create a future where different worlds could meet not with guns but with open hands. People everywhere began to look up at the stars differently. The universe was no longer just a place of mystery or danger. It was a place of possibilities, friendships, and new adventures waiting to happen. And so the story of that first contact became a legend not just of war but of peace. It taught everyone that even in the darkest moments, there is always a way to choose hope. And that sometimes, the greatest strength is the courage to reach out and say, let's try together.